So we just want to make sure that we start out by giving a lot of credit to Carla Spaglinetti, who did the part 1 of this series. So fortunately, that was also recorded, and you can reference that. Really, just kind of going over the nuts and bolts of putting together a workshop and some of the background behind submitting workshops to conferences. And then we also have to give a significant amount of credit to Noelle, Erica, and John for helping to put this together as well. Okay.
All right. So to start off, we just want to start with an icebreaker. Icebreakers are something, for those who have not used them before, icebreakers are something that we utilize at the beginning just to sort of break the ice and sort of open up the conversation. So just to start off, type in the chat, what's an icebreaker that you've seen used at the start of workshops that you found effective or that you've particularly liked, or maybe one that's even you think hasn't worked?
You can also unmute if you
Yeah, it's a small group, so you can unmute too. Favorite ice cream. I like that one.
Ben, what's your favorite ice cream?
Moose Tracks.
Nice, good choice.
Classic.
First job, high school job.
First
job. I
job.
like those.
Those are cute, yeah. We
recently did one where it was asked, what's your name? And then what's the meaning behind your name? Which I thought was really cool. It took a long time, actually, because a lot of people told like 3 or 4 paragraph stories, but it was really interesting.
That's really, yeah. And you learn a lot about a person. I
know.
That's really interesting.
And probably some of their family history. High school job, never used an icebreaker, but icebreakers. Okay. Something non-medical that's interesting about you.
Yes, we're very meta today, so.
Yeah. Tony, I would love to know what your response is for that. Who would play you in a movie? Yeah, these are great. And these are very literal responses to the question about what icebreakers what icebreaker you have used. Other examples of icebreakers that we have done and have seen done are things like word clouds at the beginning of workshops. So having people have a poll everywhere where you say what comes to mind when you say the word icebreaker, or think of the word icebreaker, or insert your noun here. And that gets people to start focusing on your topic and really kind of get in the frame of mind for whatever you're going to be talking about. There's also some options for icebreakers, like, turn to the person next to you and talk about one clinical case that you've had that's relevant to whatever the workshop topic is. And I like the workshops that I've attended where they say at the beginning, you have to sit next to someone that you don't know and that's not from your institution, to really embrace the, collaborative nature of the workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. And so utilizing the size of your group, you can utilize different methods for icebreakers to get to know people. So perfect. So our learning objectives for this talk are: number 1, to describe why workshops are important for clinician educators to build their national reputation and work towards academic promotion. Number 2, to assemble the 5 components of an essential effective workshop. And we're going to give you sort of a 5-item recipe that you can use that should apply to all workshop submissions. And then number 3, to develop a draft workshop outline that includes active learning components, because these are really the components that are important in a workshop and help it to be successful.
All right. So yes, a workshop on workshop. And this is a little bit of a review from Carla's talk, but for those that weren't able to, and so just another plug to listen to that. But for those that weren't able to come, the reason that we are talking about this is that workshops are just a really fantastic way to get scholarly expertise and really kind of cash in on some of the work that you're already doing, and are quote unquote easier sometimes than a publication. So it's an alternative to publication, oftentimes takes less work, and you oftentimes don't need data. So I know a lot of us as medical educators, it's really hard to get really substantial, rigorous data and results and outcomes sometimes from our med ed work. And so workshops are great because you can describe what you are doing and have some anecdotal results, but you don't have to have peer-reviewed data statistical analysis in order to submit. It is fantastic ways to get a national reputation if you present nationally or at, even just regional workshops. And then oftentimes you will then meet someone who comes up to you after the workshop and asks if you will speak at their own institution. And then it's been a fantastic way to really network and meet people. Obviously, it's teaching experience and presenting experience. It's a great opportunity for multi-center collaboration because most workshops submissions are looked at more fondly, actually, if you have people from different institutions. And so collaborating with others and getting others' perspectives is super helpful, and also is great because you then have connections across the country. In that way, it's great for networking. And then it's something that can go on your CV and help as you are thinking about promotion in academic medicine. So, when I first heard about, when Erica Freeling, of course, because every useful thing I've ever done has been because of Erica, said, oh, you should make a workshop on this. I was like, I have literally no idea how to do that. And that sounds really overwhelming. But it really is a lot less, it's a lot more straightforward than it might seem. So just as a story of how one came together for us, I did a journal club presentation on an article about autonomy in autonomous rounding in pediatrics. And after that journal club presentation, it was actually on the internal medicine side. A lot of the internal medicine folks reached out to me and said, why doesn't PEDS already do this? We do this all the time. And so then it turned into kind of a local working group about introducing that to PEDS. And we were able to implement independent rounding in the pediatrics in the PHM division. And we didn't have, a lot of longitudinal data, but we really wanted to share the process and our kind of anecdotal results. So reached out to some other folks that have experience or have published on independent rounding. So just, knowing the literature and then reaching out to them and have put together a workshop that we have now presented at APPD and at the PHM conference this past year. And then hopefully at PAS, we've submitted it. We're waiting for to hear about if it was accepted or not. But as you can see, this picture is from APPD. So we have people from many different divisions here at Children's, and then also folks from Vanderbilt, someone from Wisconsin, someone from Seattle helped us, and then also folks from Stanford. So it's just a really great opportunity to collaborate with other people in pediatrics across the country.
Yeah, that was a great example. And so what do you want to do workshops on? So there are a lot of different topics that you can do workshops on. Pretty much anything you can think of, you could make into a workshop. Some ideas and some things that we have thought of are diversity, equity, and inclusion, academic promotion, work-life integration, teaching skills, clinical area of controversy, professional development, UME and GME, and then advocacy skills and communication. And ultimately, thinking it's always beneficial to think of topic areas that surround the conference's theme for the year. But sort of any project that you may be working on, there are ways to spin it into a workshop. One important component of workshops is the brief interactive activity. So making workshops, the benefit of it over a lecture is that it's more interactive. You sort of get the, viewpoint from a lot of different people participating in the workshop. And so it's really important to include these interactive activities, both the brief ones and then sort of the small group and longer lasting ones. And so some of the brief interactive activities that we have thought of include to turn and talk, which is where you just turn and talk to your partner. And this is where it's beneficial if you see someone you tell them to sit with someone from a different institution, because then they'll get to network and meet new people. Think and pair share is where you have them sort of brainstorm and think about what the question or prompt is, and then they just share with each other and then maybe share with the larger group. Polling is a really good opportunity. That's also a good opportunity to get engagement from a larger group if you want to sort of have it be more anonymous as well. And then type in the chat for virtual presentations, and then just sort of asking prompting the group to just state their ideas.
Yeah, and then we wanted to see what ideas from this group, this group might have as well. If you guys have seen other, I'm trying to
other interactive activities that have been used that you found particularly effective, whether that be in talks or workshops.
You can feel free to unmute or type in the chat. And while we are thinking about that, for our kind of next step, one of the things that we had, we would love if you guys came to this session with ideas for workshop content that you have already thought about. But if not, then these were 3 potential topics that we brainstormed. So implementing a DEI curriculum, NEDOC 6, high stress efficiency and well-being. Otherwise known as strategies for wanting to murder someone your entire shift but not doing it. And then micro-learning for faculty development. So if you guys would type in the chat which of these, either 1, 2, or 3, you're most interested in, and maybe a reason why. This is a example of a brief interactive activity that we're asking you guys to participate in by kind of saying which topic you like the best.
So Ben said, I often utilize case-based small group discussions. No, those are really helpful, and then you can make them into brief interactive activities. That's great.
I don't want to murder anyone. Okay. I like asking the audience to write down their thoughts for these brief activities.
Yeah, so sort of reflect on their own. That's great. Writing is always helpful.
Find actually putting pen to paper helps people be more deliberate about committing. Yep. Yeah. So hands-on training to discuss with people. A lot of what podcasts. Okay, so the moratorium on talking about podcasts is obviously done. I'm just kidding. A lot of what podcasts have you listened to? Have you ever used editing, et cetera? I do a lot of podcasting workshops.
That's great.
Awesome. So now moving on.
It seems like number 2 is the winner.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. And obviously, if you guys have your own ideas, keep those in your back pocket. So our next component of the 5-item recipe, which we will list on the next slide, is the small group activity. So you have your brief interactive activity to get people's juices flowing and then kind of have a report back usually, and then some type of didactic session, and then, your small group activity that's super interactive. For us today, it's going to be creating a workshop submission and going through the process of what that looks like. And we're going to use this 5-item recipe that we've put together that we think is, essentially what you need to create a successful workshop submission. So you have your icebreaker, which we've already, and if you notice, this is what we have been doing so far in this presentation. So you have your icebreaker, you have learning objectives, and again, referencing Carla's talk about, she does a great review of writing effective learning objectives. You have your brief interactive activity, your small group activity, and then trying to end with a deliverable or end product that your learners can walk away with. So whether that's like handouts or new tools or just different perspectives, kind of offering those in as your hook for why people should come to your workshop. And then obviously these workshops do have some didactic components because you want to share some of your expertise and experience. The ideal ratio for the interactive proportion to the didactic proportion is around 3:2. So really trying to embrace the interactive as much as possible. So for this small group activity, we're going to take 20 minutes and try to work in groups to complete this workshop worksheet. And we're gonna type, add that in the chat. We have made maybe we're going to, we have made a worksheet that goes along with this activity. And it's, okay, here we go. And I'm gonna post it in the chat right now.
And really the benefit of this worksheet is that it's not only going to be useful for this session, but in any future workshops that you want to create, sort of utilizing this as a guide is helpful.
All right, so let us know. Hopefully that worked. But it looks like, I'm gonna pull it up here. Can you guys see this on the screen? So this is essentially the workshop guide. So you can choose a workshop topic from these, or if you have your own that you wanted to work on or kind of get some ideas, then we want you to, because most of the workshops will ask you to have a little bit of a background of, why the topic's important, what you're going to be doing. And if you frame the background for your workshop submission, thinking about how you can sell the topic, and then writing your learning objectives, and then designing the interactive activities. We have put together this is an example of what it looks like when you create an agenda for a workshop, trying to link each of your activities with one of your learning objectives. And then this next, that page 2 is really for you guys to take over on your own to come up with, a workshop submission. So has your bit of what to include for the session summary, the learning objectives, and then, your template for your agenda with our 5-item recipe components included in the template. So let's see, how many people?
I think the group is small enough that we might be able to.
Noelle, you're muted.
Oh, do you want to do 2 groups or do you want to just do 1?
Maybe just one.
I think just one, and we could just sort of work through it together. And we can just type in the chat, and we can just walk through the worksheet together. And
yeah, that sounds great. Okay. So it sounds like people liked this topic the best. Is there anyone that came here with an idea that they really wanted to do? I know the hospital is insanely busy, so you might not have had time to think about it, but if you did, I don't want to deprive anyone of the opportunity. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Get it? PAC, peace? Okay. Anyway, so we won't spend the time right now to, go through a session summary, but really it's pretty, once you have your agenda and what you want to talk about and your learning objectives, it's pretty straightforward to write the session summary. And most conferences have a word limit or character limit, and these don't have to be very long. It's usually just like a paragraph or two.
And I just want to emphasize that when you're coming up with a workshop and submitting a workshop, you do not need to have the content yet. This is really an idea, just sort of generally why it's important, the learning objectives, what you're gonna do. And then, you know, once it's accepted, the content will come after that. So do not feel like you have to have your presentation ready and completed prior to this. A lot of times, to be honest, it's sort of made up on the fly afterwards. But maybe we could go through learning objectives. So maybe if everyone could just take a minute or two to write what they would think would be a good learning objective for this workshop that we came up with, the NEDOC 6, high stress efficiency and well-being. And then type it into the chat, but don't press send yet. And then in like a minute or two, we'll press send.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Noelle just couldn't wait. She had to be first.
Well done her.
I'm asleep.
We know you've been excited about this workshop.
Oh.
Well, everyone can press send. Yeah, that works.
Wow, these are
Oh
so
my
good.
gosh, let's just go through some of them. Can I scroll up here? Okay. So Noelle said, describe effective strategies to mitigate stress during periods of surge for self, for others, and trainees. Love that. And describe is sort of one of those active terms. So the important things with objectives, just to go through really briefly, it's that you're using active words. So the word describe is very active, and then using the SMART goals. So what are they? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So excellent. And so by the end of this workshop, we're going to be helping you to describe effective strategies. Awesome. And then Anita wrote tips and tricks to navigate a busy shift. Great.
And so to make this into more of a, this is great, more of a learning objective for like a workshop submission, it would be something like I always look up the like Bloom's taxonomy. I just Google it every time to look up suggested words or verbs to use that, like, because you want to get on the higher level of the taxonomy. So things like create or apply, as opposed to just like show that you acquired knowledge. So it could be something like apply tips and tricks to navigate a busy shift, or like implement tips and tricks to navigate a busy shift. Handling stress in stressful situations. So similarly, like a learning objective would be the participant should be able to better handle stress in stressful situations.
And Erica did a nice job of sort of identifying 3. So describe 3 techniques. So that's very clear what they're going to come away from the workshop being able to do. And then Tony discussed techniques to deal with high stress situations at work that are short and impactful. Great.
Great.
Awesome.
Lots of discuss and describe. So again, this is sometimes, and this is kind of just like the art of submitting workshops. I will go in and like use the thesaurus for like describe instead of using describe and come up with other words. Again, just trying to demonstrate like those higher level educational objectives. Demonstrate is a good one. And
generally 3 learning objectives are pretty effective.
Ben thought we were on titles, which is great. We do later talk about the importance of catchy titles and currently photoshopping Ben with his hair on fire. I'll be back in 5. That would be a great learning objective. Learn to Photoshop.
Also a great picture for the front of your workshop.
How to make a straw to drink from the fire hose. That's great. Don't my hair product's not flammable. I've never tested it out. Let's not test it out. The ED is too busy for that.
He can come to us at Monty.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then I find picking the best verb to be the hardest but most important part of writing a good learning objective. Yep, agreed. Sorry, I have to leave, but we'll continue. Okay. And then Kate and I, was this ours? Yes. Yep. Kate and I were kind of team working one that we came together that I'll copy and paste here. Just, different examples of learning objectives, but usually they do just ask for like 3 or 4. But then once you have your learning objectives, it's helpful and most effective to go back to those when you are writing your agenda item to think about how does this agenda item directly relate to what I want them to get out of this workshop or the learning objectives. So what are some ideas for icebreakers? We're going to kind of go through these, like essentially put together an agenda.
And just as a brief side note, sorry.
No.
In terms of the timing, generally they're going to ask you to come up with timing as if it were a 60-minute workshop, and then they may ask you to sort of addend into what you would add or what sort of things you would elaborate on if you were to be given a 90-minute workshop time. So just to keep that in mind and have sort of that flexibility when you're thinking of your workshop. But yes, go back to icebreakers. What are some ideas for icebreakers that we could utilize for this, and how long would you guys typically want to spend on that icebreaker? We can
pair share. Oh, sorry. Maybe a pair share on ways that what you've done with someone else, just to generate some conversation in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Another really good time to sort of sit with someone that you don't know and talk about like what you do at your institutions or how your institutions are different. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, John asks, is there one of the objectives you want us to focus on? I think they all are probably all of them are pretty similar, like have a lot of overlap. Like if we were to actually be submitting this, we'd want to refine the learning objectives and make sure that they cover different things, but just for the sake of like practicing writing learning objectives.
I think the techniques, it seems like that seems to be the one. So we can focus on describing 3 techniques to maintain professionalism.
So we have an idea for 3 pair share. Tony wants it to be 5 minutes. So 0 to 5. And then Tony, are you happy with this icebreaker activity?
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
What's the craziest shift you've ever had? I love that. That is actually,
and I like that because it sort of like builds up the emotion so that everyone gets sort of excited for the discussion that's about to come. That's great.
Wow. Sorry, everything is changing. And then
a word cloud. So John said having a word cloud type activity that's already up on the board so that they can fill it out as they're walking in. That's a really good point. Having it already up on the board also saves a lot of time and sort of gets people as they're going from one workshop to the next to really start thinking about what this workshop is going to be about. That's great.
Yeah, I think these are great. And then, in your workshop, you will then go over your learning objectives, which it goes back to that idea of you're going to tell people what you're going to tell them, then you're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them what you taught them. So reviewing those, that usually takes, I don't know, like 2 minutes. And then brief interactive activity. I just moved this think, pair, share that Noel suggested for the icebreaker down to this. But, you know, other ideas that people have, very open to other suggestions. Oops. Oh my God.
I'm also impressed.
Is that a taco?
It
looks like a taco.
I'm impressed with how quickly you were able to edit that. We know who to go to for editing skills now.
Oh my
that's
God.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, wait, how do I?
That's
Wow, I was just trying to paste it to have it be like the icon of our session, but I didn't mean for it to be
like
that big.
It's gonna haunt my dreams.
Great. Perfect. Okay. Can this be?
Yes. Yeah, great.
Can we use this visual for the
Of
workshop?
course.
Actually, I think this visual can just be your workshop submission, is just this visual. But yeah, that's fantastic. I don't really know where to go from there because I don't have anything. Okay. Other ideas for the brief interactive activity, we have think, pair, share. And then I think at this point, it might be helpful to do some of your didactic, where you're going to really be talking about skills that you have to avoid murdering people on shifts, as has been the subtext of our workshop. But again, going back to your learning objectives, and you know, you want people to leave this workshop with tips to be more efficient in times of stress, but also without sounding like you are ignoring the fact that things are really busy and really hard. So kind of trying to balance like being positive, but also acknowledging that things are hard and providing people with the skills to still maintain their efficiency in this clinical environment. So with that being said, does anyone have any ideas or thoughts that they would want to do for the small group activity?
And this may be post-didactics to be able to implement what they utilized, what they learned in the didactic session. You can unmute or type in the chat.
This might be more of a brief activity, it's always easier to reflect and think about experiences they might have seen it when other people were doing it well.
Oh yeah, that's
so
great.
How did a super busy shift when you were either a faculty or resident, and Noelle is just like cool, calm, and collected, and things are, how just explain and describe and maybe think about how you've been witness to it doing well and what those techniques might have been. So the audience is generating their own learning of how they might use those skills.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's great. And you could also even do times that it went badly and what made it not effective or a negative experience, so that people can learn from that. And then I like to end on the positive note. And then do like what are times that it went well.
And that could be in the brief interactive activity portion, like you were saying as well.
Other ideas of small group activities that we've seen include, like, if you as the workshop writers create cases that people then discuss, so different scenarios where you could, discuss like some interpersonal conflicts, and then have kind of prompt questions for people to discuss relating to those cases. And again, in a workshop submission, you don't actually have to have those cases written at the time that you submit them. You can just say that this is what you're going to do. And then other small group activities are like, coming up with proposals that you do together, or sharing what has been done at your local institution if you're at a like national or regional conference. And then usually it's helpful if you're going to have a small group report back, or a small group kind of, you know, where you rejoin as a large group, to identify at the beginning and say, one of you like name your reporter at the beginning of this, so that you don't have the awkward time once people, you know, return to their group or return to the large group. You don't have the awkward time of who's going to talk. And that person then usually pays a little bit closer attention during the activity, so that if they know that they're going to have to be the one reporting back. And that way, you know, the entire everyone in the workshop gets to benefit from what each small group talked about if you do the small group report back. So cases with coaching techniques and tips for improving teams. I think that is great.
And these small group or large group activities, depending on how many people come to the workshop, tend to be sort of a big bulk of the workshop. They tend to generate the most thought processes, and you get a lot of good information out of it. So I would be sure to designate a good amount of time for these activities.
Yeah, just like, again, being meta, what we're doing right now in this kind of presentation is allowing a significant bulk of the time to be this small group activity. Agree, John, if you have enough facilitators, it is great to have one in each group, because you can have the facilitator do the report back.
Yeah, that's great.
Recent workshop I attended showed video clips of famous movies, and that was the case to be discussed. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
For that example, the videos were different leadership styles. I love that. We did that for one of the allyship workshops, looking at clips of Scrubs in the past and examples of not good allyship. So I think that is fun, and people always enjoy watching those.
Great.
And then, so again, having this be kind of the bulk of your, maybe like a 10-minute didactic session. So I'm having to do math, which I regret a lot. So small group activities, say like that's 30 minutes. I don't know if this math is going to work out, but this is why you have it as a draft. So 55 to, or wait, 25 to 55. And then the report back is usually like 10, depending on how many, the size of your groups, can usually be about, 10 minutes. And then if this is a 90-minute workshop, you maybe, you can add or change any of these, but things always take longer than you think that they're going to, because workshops never start on time. And then it usually takes a little bit to get momentum going for people to like start participating. So it's always nice to leave yourself a little bit of wiggle room. But we like to end with a deliverable. So, we're going to keep thinking about this proposal that we have here, but we're going to keep, so for deliverables, ideas that we had that we wanted to leave people with is just thinking about your own workshop submissions. So these are some local and regional and national conferences that have active calls for workshops right now. The APPD workshop deadline is Monday. So if you are feeling particularly motivated to put something together by then, but there's also the local GME Rita Patel Leadership Conference, and that deadline is November 16th. So a little bit more time. There's also the Dina Hofkosh Conference, which the call is for workshop proposal will be in the spring. If you are able to put together a workshop and submit it to us to be one of the spring PEAC sessions, and then the AAP National Conference the calls are in the spring as well. And then we didn't include like specialty specific conferences here, but all of your various specialties likely have their own conferences that all kind of call for or try to solicit workshop submissions.
And some other sort of deliverables that I've seen be effective in the past include things such as, name or like think to yourself or write down in your phone or like create a note for yourself that one thing that you're going to implement in your practice, like an alarm for yourself, a reminder that will pop up like 2 weeks later to see if you've done it. I've also seen, the people presenting request that they email them something that they want to practice on, and then, they'll check in with them in 2 weeks or whatever. Other deliverables are like, handouts, things that they're
just like the
away.
handout that we have made for you guys as a deliverable.
Something that they can utilize going forward that they're going to take away from the workshop, whether that be tangible or intangible.
Yeah. And then we just wanted to end with some really kind of final tips that we have found helpful. And as Kate has said, like, you don't have to have everything fully planned and thought out at the time that you submit. You don't even have to have your full list of presenters or your final list of presenters. As she will tell you, our list of presenters for some of the autonomy changed like the day of. So it's a lot more fluid than a peer-reviewed publication submission that is typically very formal, which is why we think it's really a great modality for clinician educators. Do you want to do the next one?
Sure. So perfect is the enemy of good. It does not need to be a perfect submission. There's always, room to adjust things. And you do not need to be an expert necessarily in the field. You will become an expert when you work on the content for it. So if it's something that you have an interest in, you want to learn more about, something that you've been working on, like Ellie had said previously, a project, just do it. Just write it into a workshop submission and a lot of good things can come out from it.
And then we talked about the importance of multi-institutional collaboration if possible, and just having the names of folks from different institutions when you submit your workshop. It just, as you can imagine, if you are going to a conference and see a workshop that has names from all over the country talking about a topic, you might think that their perspective would be a little bit more diverse and varied, and that might be something that you would be more interested in. And then also just it opens opportunities for future collaboration as well. And
interactive is always the better option. That's one of the benefits of workshops, is that it's a more interactive approach to learning and teaching material, and why it's different than a didactic lecture. So make sure that, again, the ratio is 3:2 in terms of interactive to didactic components.
And then, as Ben alluded to, a catchy title. Really, it sounds silly, but I think that a lot of times the catchy title is what is like the hook a lot. Like, for example, one of the workshops that we did was about using the teachable moment, and the title was like, not gonna miss my shot. Oh my gosh, now oh my God, Ben's gonna be so upset with me because I'm like misquoting Hamilton.
Not throwing away my shot, I believe.
Not throwing away my shot. I just froze for a second. Not throwing away my shot. I even came up with the idea and I just completely ruined it. But so, and it was like, just, I think because of that title, it was the one that like the PHM conference featured as one of the, like, in all of their emails to other about the conference, trying to get people to sign up. They said like workshops included, and that was one of the featured ones. And I think it was just because of the title. So the titles go a long way.
And you have to think about, there are multiple workshops happening at the same time. And so you really want to win over people. Like, this is why you should come to my workshop, and don't judge it by its cover, but like kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally it says, oh wait, this is, I don't know what Ben put in the chat. I'll have to download it later. But you won't get accepted if you don't submit. So even if you're like, I don't know if this is put together enough, I don't know if this is good enough idea, I don't know if people are interested, just try it, submit it. You usually, even if you don't get accepted, will get feedback on why it wasn't accepted. So then you can use that feedback to resubmit it to either another conference or the same conference the next year. And really just encourage you to just put it together and, get it submitted. And then this is just really, again, a special thanks to Noelle, Erica, John, and Carla for their guidance and expertise helping us put this together. And I wish that I could end with I had on this slide the picture of Ben's hair on fire, but that will be in the next iteration. But thank you so much. We're happy to take questions and really encourage you guys to put together workshops.
Yeah, what questions do you guys have? Also, if anyone wants to do this workshop, we already have a lot of material, so.
That was fantastic. A really great overview. And I think strategies and the timelines and your tips were all fantastic. So I really, really appreciate this. I think I put in the chat, but I think it would be great for fellows. I don't know how many fellows we have that are putting together workshops, but that would be something that we have not done in the past. I don't think, Erica, for them, have we as part of UFC? Anything about that? No.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, that would be something great to do. I think this would be a great, Rhett and I have been talking about this, honestly, and then we got the APPD is putting on a virtual cafe next week called Learning to Surf the Tsunami, which is about, resiliency during the surge.
I think your title is better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I would be happy to work on this with everyone on the call. If we wanted to put something together for Monday, it couldn't hurt to just throw what we have so far together with some objectives. And
the other benefit is once you have something written, you can submit to multiple
places.
Yeah. You should definitely get more than one submission on this.
Yeah.
And also the other thing that really comes out of this, which we could have said earlier, but sometimes attendees, and this has happened in the past to me, sometimes attendees who are at your workshops from other institutions may, it's great networking because they may, need this talk within their own institution. And so I've been invited to give this workshop as an invited speaker. And so that's another thing to add on to your CV. So really getting out to these national conferences and just sort of giving this information can go a long way.
Another quick fun sidebar. We've had 2 PHM fellows apply for jobs here for next year because they saw our workshops at the national conference and they thought we were really fun people. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, what made you think of Pittsburgh? And like, well, let me tell you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was really cool because there I don't know, 4 or 5 of us who did, groups of us who did workshops at PHM and people noticed.
I think that they probably heard John sing. It was John singing of Hamilton that probably reeled them in.
That's most definitely what it was.
Agreed, completely.
Any other thoughts on this as this specific workshop that we workshop today?
Yes, we're also open to feedback for future iterations.
Oh, you mean, Noelle, do you mean this idea?
Yeah, this idea, because one of the things I think we can leave with is whoever's on, if they want to join us, we could submit this to an upcoming session. We certainly could do it for PEAC in the spring. I think this would be a great one to do.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're looking to submit for either APPD or the Rita Patel one, we'd probably need to shift it more to like, how do you make a good learning environment for your learners while you're busy? Just because the audience is going to be more, I guess maybe not for the GME one, but for APPD, it's probably going to be more kind of like PDs who are looking at how do we role model for our trainees, how to do this and ensure they're learning, as opposed to like maybe necessarily how do I manage my stress during my clinical work.
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell you this would be great for the PHM National Conference. I have inside information about that. This is the kind of stuff they're looking for. So this would be great for that. If you all want to go to Philly this year, which is a great city.
When's that due, Tony?
I want to say
Not for a
January, but
while.
we're probably going to push it back.
Oh, okay.
Amazing. That'll give us a little more time too.
Tony, do we include the picture of Ben with his hair on fire in the submission, or?
I think
I would
they'd probably
include it.
prefer one of Tony's hair on fire for
Yeah,
PA.
that's a good call. Good call.
We'll get an audio of John singing to really drive people in there.
It may be a smaller fire. Tony's hair is not quite as robust as Ben's, but you know.
That's true. That's true.
Did my
well,
second picture come through yet or not yet?
No.
Wait for it.
Oh, no.
If they see
Keep
that
talking.
picture,
It
they're
takes a
gonna choose it
while
for
to
a
come through.
plenary.
I sent him.
Oh, Kate said if they see that picture, they're going to choose it for a plenary.
Everyone's hair on fire, like a group photo.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Check with Peds Endo Society
Yeah.
meeting. Amazing.
Because
Yeah.
this really can apply anywhere.
Sorry, I joined in late. I know this is so amazing. I really think we could do something like this. And we've had workshops before, but not in this format. Oh, look at that. But that would be great. Let me check and I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just feel free to email us.
We kind of look like Devo.
It looks like a taco. It looks like a taco that's on fire.
I think we're hungry.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you guys all for participating and coming with your ideas, and Erica for her photoshopping skills, and looking forward to collaborating on putting things together.
I think this would be fun to do ongoing, just to continue to brainstorm ideas.
Absolutely. What do you think would be the best way to do that, Kate?
Ooh. I think it would. I don't know. I'm open to ideas.
You mean doing the
to brainstorming? Oh, love that. Yes.
over adult beverages?
That's fun. Yeah, well, we have to have a theme for our cocktails.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Fiery cocktails.
we could think about that and see maybe if there's like a forum where we could come together and brainstorm workshop ideas, like a working group, sort of like a writing group almost.
A writing a workshop. I like that.
Yeah.
No, I like that idea a lot. That's a good idea. All right.
Flaming Dr. Pepper shots. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've never
This could
had
get
one
ugly.
of those.
My learning objectives would be very interesting after one of those, I think.
Maybe even better.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
We'll be in touch via email for the submissions.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
And thanks for being so interactive.
Bye.